I'm Grace from Good Cookery, and today I'm making sourdough whole wheat bread. This recipe has everything measured out in grams, but if you don't have a kitchen scale, I'll have a conversion at the end of the video so that you can measure it out. The first ingredient is sourdough starter. I have been feeding this since yesterday with equal parts of flour and water, so the texture is very liquidy, almost like a muffin batter or a pancake batter. And for one loaf of bread, I'm going to measure out 160 grams. And we're combining all the liquids first, and the flour we will add last. Next is 30 grams of olive oil. All right. And 30 grams of maple syrup. 8 to 10 grams of salt, and finally 280 grams of water. Alright, and then go ahead and stir all the liquid ingredients together until the sourdough is broken up a little bit and it isn't quite as clumpy. Alright, it's very watery in the bowl right now, and now I'm going to go ahead and add the flour. Because this is freshly ground flour, it's very moist compared to if you buy your flour pre-ground from the store. So you might have to adjust the amount of water depending on what kind of flour you use. So I'm going to add 400 grams of flour. And that was the last ingredient, and now I'm going to stir it together. Just until it comes together, and it's very clumpy and pretty moist for a bread dough, and that's good. I'm going to now put it in my KitchenAid mixer and mix it for just a little bit, just until it forms a dough, probably about 2 to 4 minutes. I'm going to mix it. Also, for this first mixing, I mix it about on medium-low or speed number 4 if you have a KitchenAid. Alright, I'm going to show you the texture. It's very important that it be wet, because our next step is to let it rest for 20 minutes. So as I pour it into the bowl, you'll see it's very, very wet. And it's not at all coming away from the sides of the bowl, and that's a good thing, because we're going to let it rest for 20 minutes, and the grain is going to really absorb some of the liquid. The dough has rested for about 20 minutes, so now I'm going to move on to kneading it. I'm going to put it in our mixer bowl, and I'm going to knead it on speed 4 for up to 15 minutes. After about the first 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to check it, and if it's too wet, then I'll add some more flour. It's been 3 minutes. It's starting to come away from the sides of the bowl. If after about 8 minutes of kneading it's still too wet and it's not clearing the side of the bowl, then I might add some flour. This is the dough at the 6-minute mark. It's now only sticking on the bottom of the bowl, and it's starting to thump around as it kneads. We're going to continue to knead it until it clears the bottom of the bowl. The dough is clearing the bottom of the bowl now. It's gotten a lot stiffer. I'm going to let it go for just a little bit more, and then I'm going to put it into an oiled bowl to rise. Alright, let me show you what this looks like. Use my hand to take it off of the dough hook. And the dough is very moist and sticky, but it also has a very good gluten structure. So I'm going to scrape it into my bowl. olive oil, pour it over the top. Make sure the top half is coated so that when it rises, it does not stick to the saran wrap. Alright, I'm going to cover this and let it rise for 2 hours. The bread has been rising for about 2 hours, so now we're going to lightly flour the counter and turn the dough out. Don't be afraid of stretching it or tearing it. It should come right out. You can pull it out as you need to. And now take each corner and stretch and fold it in over itself. Do that 4 times. Make sure there's flour underneath so it doesn't stick. And then fold it in half and put it right back in the bowl. And let it rise for another hour to 2 hours before you do the next step. The bread has been rising for another hour, so now we're going to shape it into loaves. And I have a floured surface so that nothing sticks. So don't be afraid about hurting the dough, because you won't. Gently stretch it out into a rectangle, and just press it with your fingertips to make sure that there are no air bubbles. And I'm going to flour my fingertips because the dough is very sticky. So, I'm going to fold the top ends down, forming a triangle, and then I'm going to gently roll and stretch back, rolling it all the way up. When I get to the end, tucking the ends under, and then I have a bread pan, and I'm lifting it right up. And if your fingers stick here, that's okay. It always happens. Just making sure that you have a pretty tight skin over top of the bread. If you like herb bread or bread that has some cheese in it, this would be the time to add that. So this loaf, I'm going to put herbs and cheese into. You could use goat cheese or cream cheese or any kind of soft spread cheese. I mixed in chopped herbs, salt and pepper, and an egg to help it stick together. So then at this step, just put the herb mixture on. Spread it out. And it would be good if the cheese mixture is room temperature, because if it's cold, it's going to make the bread take longer to rise before you bake it. Make sure you get the edges as well. That way you have herbs even in the end pieces of the loaf. Alright, then the same thing. Fold the top ends in and gently press it away from you, rolling it up. And get to the end, tuck those edges under. These loaves, of course, are bigger, but they don't rise as much because of the cheese and herbs inside them. So now we're going to grease the tops of the loaves with olive oil, and we're going to bake them after they rise for an hour to 2 hours. We're going to bake them at 350 degrees, an hour for the herb bread, and 45 minutes for the plain bread. And then once you take them out of the oven, you can let them cool in the pans for about 5 minutes. And then after that, take them out and set them on a cooling rack until they're completely cool.